Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is JJ. I'm a writer, a reader, an author, and a marketing specialist. I work with authors on a regular basis to help promote their books and bring them to the world. So if you're an author and you wanted to learn more about that, check out the description for more information. Today, I wanted to give you an update on my own writing progress. So, like I said, I work with authors on a regular basis, helping them bring their books out to the world. But on the weekends, I work on my own stuff, and I bring my own books to the world as much as I can. None of them are published yet as of 2023. We're working on that, or we're working on making that possible. But this month, we reached another milestone where the book that I've been working on for the last probably about a year now, actually. I'd have to go in and check the actual dates, but for the last while, the book that I've been working on, I got it back, and I got the feedback back from my feedback back. Why am I like this? Anyway, I got feedback from the people who read it first. In the publishing industry, we call that our beta readers. They are the people who we give the unpublished book to and say, hi, what do you think? Tell me honestly. Do you think this is worth continuing to pursue? Do you think that I'm onto something? Do you like it? Do you not like it? Which characters do you love? Give me feedback on the story, if it's believable, all of the above, right? So that is super cool. And I so deeply appreciate all of those people and the time and effort and energy that they put into making sure that I had feedback that I could work off of as I'm doing my self edits. Which, quick aside, if you are an author and you are looking for a good tool to help you in your editorial process, couple of resources for you. First resource, this one, Word by Word, an editor's guide for writers in the self-publishing process. This one especially is going into all of the different types of editing. So there's content editing, there's peeking into a publishing house, there's reading word by word, there's formatting, there's looking at the big picture, there's copy editing, proofreading, all of the things that you need to know about the editorial process is covered in this book, which is super helpful. And it's really quick, easy guide, very good reference for anything that you need when it comes to figuring out how to fix your book up. So I've been using this one. I'll be going back through and refreshing myself on a lot of this stuff, because every time that you work on something, you'll find that there's certain questions. So like this one, content editing, looking at the big picture. Some questions to ask about the theme, right? Just so you get an idea of what this book does is, what theme or themes and there can be more than one, do you desire to communicate? Is the theme preachy and overdone, or is it subtle enough to be satisfying? If there is symbolism or the use of images throughout the book, do they reflect the theme? Does the theme arise naturally out of the characters or the plot, or does it seem forced? Does the passion you have for this topic come in your writing? Do you feel you accomplished what you promised your readers by the end? What do you want them to know, feel, understand, or do? Is there a lot of passive voice? Do you rely too much on adverbs? Is every word the best word that you could use in that sentence? Do the sentence lengths and structures vary? Various different, is the content organized? Does the manuscript flow logically? Have you constructed a clear, convincing, and compelling story? What happens in your gut as you read? Is there an arc of conflict, crisis, and resolution? Right? So all of these questions that are important as you're really assessing whether or not the book is ready, she covers them all here. So highly, highly recommend this book. So there's that one. The other one that I would recommend is Troubleshooting Your Novel by Stephen James. This one is also designed as a reference guide where you can look through, okay, backstory, how do you do that well? Intimacy, how are you doing that well? Desire, dilemmas, are you providing the closure that you need? Is the viewpoint the right spot? Foreshadowing, is that correct? So it's just like really quick and easy reference type of stuff when you're going through and figuring out if your book is ready or not. Those are my tricks. Those are my tips. But I have been digging into my characters, and I got the feedback from my beta readers, and overall, they really liked it, which is huge. That's so good. That's such good news. I gave them a list of, actually, I gave them a bunch of surveys. We have a group me, and that app lets you create polls for the group. And so I gave them a list of questions and potential answers that would just make it really easy for them to give me the feedback that I needed of whether they liked the characters, whether I handled certain topics really well. Like one of the questions was, one of the major themes in this book is grief and dealing with grief. Do you think that I did that well? Does it need more? Does it need less? How did I handle it in your opinion? What did you want to see more of? What did you want to see less of? Was it lingered on too much? Was it not lingered on enough? That sort of stuff. Were the characters compelling? Did you like them? Did you like the point of view characters we had? Is there anybody else in the story that you wanted to see point of view from? Did you think that the ending was believable? Did it give you the resolution you were hoping for? Did the plot have, in the end, the characters with agency that you wanted them to have, right? So all sorts of questions like that. And so now I have some direction as I'm going through and adjusting the plot. There was one character in particular, funny enough, our dead guy. In a mystery novel, there's always a dead guy, right? And so our dead guy, they needed to know him more. They wanted to know if like the things that he cared about, and they wanted to linger more on his character and get to know him through the other characters' perspectives so that we could have a deeper connection with him, even though he's not active in the plot. He's alive for a single scene and that's only showed through flashbacks, right? So how do you show this character? How do you interact with this character when he's not taking part in the majority of the plot? But he is definitely adding an impact to this character and to the story in general, right? So I've been going through and trying to figure out, okay, where else can I add in more information about him? Where else can I add in reflections and flashbacks and thoughts of, man, if only this character was here, he would know what to do. Or just showing the impact of his absence on all of these characters a little bit better. And then there comes the question of the ending, right? Where, how do I ensure that the right characters have agency when they're in an impossible situation? That is going to be one of the trickiest edits that I'll have to figure out. Because my beta readers were right. They usually are. If you're an author and you get feedback, trust that feedback. Especially if more than one person is saying it, it's usually a sign that either one of two things happened, right? Either you didn't communicate as clearly as you thought you did, right? So, for example, there was a scene that I had in my head where a bunch of these college students, because the book takes place on a college campus, a bunch of them were hanging out in line waiting for a college event to start, right? But taking from my own college experience, all of them most of them had been there for hours, and they were sitting on the floor in the hallway waiting for the doors to open so they could go in. It's not like they started within 20 minutes and then entered immediately. It was, they've been here since the afternoon. Having only been to college in one spot with one group of students and with one place, right? I didn't realize that that's not the sort of idea that most people have when they think of college student events and waiting in line to go into an event like this. And this one was actually a copy edit where I said that the characters were already sitting in line. And one of my beta readers commented and she was like, just have them be in line. Like, they're already in line. And I was like, oh no, because then we lose the entire scene. So I had to add in more information, right? She was right. I was right. But she was right. I didn't communicate properly enough to give her the accurate depiction of what it was that I saw in my mind, right? So I had to make an adjustment to make sure that she could understand, no, this is actually what's happening. They are sitting in line, but the whole line is sitting because the whole line is waiting for people to come in, right? So for the doors to open or for everything else like that. So it's things like that have that impact. Another thing that was interesting to me is the interactions between certain characters, or my interaction with the genre, right? So like, I know, and anybody who's studied crime fiction or watched enough crime shows would know, that when you're acting or interacting with criminals and CIs, criminal informants, you're going to have very specific criminal code languages come up, right? So like, if you need somebody to move stolen goods, right, to sell stolen goods on the black market or anywhere else, to find a buyer for something that you stole and it's a high ticket item, it's a hot item even, if you will, which all of that hot item, moving product, all of that is still jargon that I just default to because I've been surrounded and entrenched in this genre for so long. But I had a couple friends say, what on earth is a fence? And I was like, okay, you don't know this genre. It's possible. I mean, there's a lot of people who like, and then, so the question then comes in, right? Do I change the story to add that information for somebody who doesn't know what a fence is in the criminal world? Or do I trust my readers are likely to know that and be familiar enough with the genre to know what that word is? The easy answer is to leave it. The better answer is to adjust it so that somebody in the scene is like, hold on, slow down. I don't know what you're talking about. Because if I do it that way, anybody who picks up the book, even if they're not familiar with the genre, even if they're just taking a hit, taking a chance on it, they'll understand what I'm saying and they'll know what's going on, right? So those are the sorts of things that you have to think about in the content and developmental edits as well. But that's not something I would have ever realized on my own. This is why I need those beta readers, why I need people to give me that feedback of, I don't know what's going on in this scene. Because for me, I'm like, oh yeah, that's obvious, right? Like, of course, like even I had one of their comments was, I wish that there was more action happening in the very beginning of the book, right? Where we had more background, like somebody being like stalking them or watching them or bugging them, right? So we could have somebody spying on them. And I was like, well, that is happening from the very second that this character walks on the scene. But the whole point is that you're not supposed to realize that this character is doing that, right? If the character is spying on people, she doesn't want to get caught. And if you're in the perspective of the people she's spying on, they won't know that she's spying on them until much, much later. And so the question becomes, how do I raise the stakes? Because clearly the feedback is the stakes need to be raised. But how do I do that in such a way that it doesn't decrease the impact that reveal will have later on, right? So when it comes to editorial work, right, and getting feedback from beta readers, trust them. I have to trust them. I have to trust that when they say, this is the problem that I'm seeing, I have to trust that they're correct because they're the only people who can give me that feedback, right? I'm too close to it. I know all of the things about the story. I know what's going on. I'm way too close. So I have to go back and I have to say, okay, I hear you saying that this is the problem. I can't go with one of the solutions that you've provided because it doesn't fit with the characters or the plot, but that helps me identify the problems so that I can find a solution that will work. which is super cool too, because they can really help me find those problems, and it's vital that they do. Again, I can't see it. I'm too close to it. So if they are helping me do that, great, perfect. That's their whole job, is to help me identify what works and what doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, then it's my job to go fix it. So that's what I'm doing right now. That's where I'm at in the editor, in this process. Doing my self edits. When I finished the book, I believe I was at like 57,000 words, which is really short for a novel. That sounds like a lot if you're not a writer, but most of the books like this one, I guarantee, is probably close to 80 or 90,000 words, just in general length. Like, that's an average book length. And so if that's the case, my book is going to be really, really short at 57,000 words. Even 60,000 words is going to be really short. The goal for me is to get to 65 or 70,000. We'll see if that happens in this go round, but I'm almost at 60,000. So another like 300 words and I'll be at 60,000, which is so good. I love it. I'm so glad. In large part too, I'm an underwriter. So there's different types of writers. There's people who overwrite and have to go in through editing and remove everything that's extraneous, everything that's extra and that doesn't serve everything. I have learned to be so concise over the years that I accidentally skip really important things like descriptions of settings and people. We got halfway through the book before one of my beta readers commented and she was like, I don't know what these people look like. I mean, I know what that one looks like, but I don't know what the rest of them look like. And I was like, oh, that's a problem. You know, because like, I don't want to give into the cliche of point of view character looks in the mirror and gives you a rundown, because really, truly, how often as a person, realistically, do you look in the mirror and say, oh wow, my brown hair looks really good today. It really complements my blue eyes. Like, you don't do that. That's not what people do. You do that a little bit more. Like, I do that when I have red in my hair or highlights in my hair. And I'm like, wow, the red and the highlights, they really complement how I'm looking today. Or like getting ready for, say, a date. Where I'm like, I'm going to make sure that I put on this like cream eyeshadow because that'll make the blue in my eyes pop, right? Like, that's when I would be looking in the mirror and thinking that much about my appearance. But for the most part, it's just, this is what I look like. That's me. Which means that there's a cliche of how do you describe a character without falling into those cliches, right? So, and you can do a lot with different like comparisons, right? So if you're doing twins or siblings, where you're like, well, my brother has brown hair and green eyes in contrast to my black hair and blue eyes, right? But even that it's a clunky time. Descriptions are necessary, but it's so clunky to add into plot because very rarely do people describe themselves in their own point of view. So I've been trying to figure out how to add that in properly too. But a lot of it is just adding in descriptions, creating the scenes and the settings so that they're more vibrant and vivid. And, you know, if I say that they're in a coffee shop, I want you to actually be able to smell the coffee on the air and hear the steam wand and the thunk of the milk pitcher as the barista is working the bubbles out of it. Like, I want you to hear and taste that coffee, right? Hear the coffee? Hear the scene, right? I want you to be entrenched in the world so deeply that you're like, yeah, of course. I know exactly what that coffee shop looks like. But I never put that in my rough draft. I have been working on trying to figure out how to do that, and it just doesn't happen. It always has to be added in after the fact. I think when I'm writing, I see it way more than it's like watching a movie. And then I'm recording what I'm seeing. It's not the creative process of sitting down and saying, okay, what is around them? What is, one of the authors that I work with on a regular basis, she commented on one of my Facebook posts recently, about this very thing. And she was like, I always ask the questions, of what can they see 5 feet in front of them, 10 feet in front of them, 15 feet in front of them, 20 feet in front of them, and then what do they notice behind them, right? And I'm like, okay, that's really good advice too. Thank you, Nancy Wakely, for that one. That one is a good one. That's good advice. So I'll share it here. Go check out Nancy's books, actually, too. You can, she's a really fun, good writer. She does, I spilled my water everywhere. She does a little bit more sweet, gentle mysteries where they're not cozy per se, but they're definitely not like gruesome, hard suspense. A lot more personal, very general fiction, but with a mystery bend to it, which is fun if you're looking for that sort of just to get wrapped up in the good parts of life and culture and gardens and tea, right? Like if you're looking for that and then also having a mystery to enjoy while you're doing that, go check out her books. Nancy Wakely, again. Anyway, all that to say, I'm in the process. After this process, so I have to finish edits first. I'll do my rounds and I'll clean up the manuscript. I'll do copy edits and stuff to make sure that the grammar is as clean as it can be. And then what comes next, right? That is always the big question of everybody when I'm like, okay, I finished the first draft, and everyone's like, okay, well, now what? Like, now is it, you publish it? And yes and no, right? So in the world of self-publishing, there's a expectation that if you write a book, you'll just instantly put it out there in the world. And that's not what I'm aiming for. My goal, like, I'm not opposed to that. I might do that, but I want to try it the traditional way first before I just go that route. I have a lot of time. I'm very young. There is space for me to grow my career and try to do it in the traditional way. And if that works, fantastic. If that doesn't work, that's fine. I have the skills to make it work no matter how that ends up happening, right? But step one for me is going to be finishing these content edits. Step two, going through, doing a slight copy edit to make sure that everything is cleaned up and nice and presentable. Step three, compiling the things that are necessary for a query, right? If you're new around here, or you've joined in the last couple of years, I have done so many videos on literary agent querying and publishing house querying and everything else. So if you're looking for all of that, that's all in like the Publishing 101, how to break into the publishing industry stuff playlist on my channel. Everything from how to write a query letter to how to write a book proposal to how do you find a literary agent that you want to work with. All of that stuff, I cover all of that. I'll be doing that again. So step one is finish the book. Step two is prepare all of the query documents. Some of that means getting like the first 3 chapters, getting the first 5 chapters, getting the first 50 pages, getting the first 5 pages, etc., whatever it looks like. Writing the dreaded synopsis and the impossible back cover copy. My job has made me really good at writing back cover copy for other people and really bad still at writing back cover copy for myself. And the problem with writing back cover copy always, when it's your own work, like the reason it's so easy to do that for other people is because you're not close to the book. A lot of the time, the back cover copy that I'm writing, I haven't read the book. I don't know how it ends, and that's okay. That's the point. I don't need to know how it ends. I just need to want to read it. That's what back cover copy does, right? It's not a full synopsis. It doesn't give away the ending. The goal is to whet the appetite, state the stakes, and let people know what they're getting into. So that's what I'll be doing, is writing the back cover copy, writing the synopsis. 1 page. Always fun to try to narrow down a whole book into 1 page. Because so much happens, and then you have to be like, actually, none of that is important. Here's the important bits. Bam, 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 bam. Here's the theme. Here's how that plays out, right? And then put together an updated list of what my platform looks like, potential marketing plan, all of that stuff. A lot of that is overkill for querying agents. some of them need that, some of them don't care. Comp titles, I'll have to find comp titles, comparable titles if you're new around here. Books that are like mine but not mine. So that's always a fun time. Especially because they have to be recent, right? Most of the time they need to be within the last 3 years. So finding books that are current titles that are out in the market, that are similar to mine, but that are not mine, that have differences, because obviously I didn't copy them. So that's part of that process too. Essentially just creating the package that says, hi person who works in the agency that I'm looking at working with. I saw online that you like the kinds of books that I write. I was hoping that you might like my book. And if you like my book, would you please help me get it out to a publishing house and open some doors for me to get published? I will give you the standard 15% of my profits if that were to happen, right? So essentially that's the goal. That's the next step, is to finish the book, prepare it for querying, and then begin querying. My plan is to try for literary agents first, and then try for smaller publishing houses that are still traditional, but that don't require being represented by an agent to get in the door. Hopefully one of those will shake out and my career will be off the ground and running. Woo! If neither of those shake out, that's okay. I will either, at that point, have written another book that I can try querying instead, or I can bring this book out to the world in a different way through various different other options that I have available to me because of all of the knowledge I have from working in the publishing industry. So yeah, that's the plan. That's what happens next. So step 1, finish edits. Like I said, I gotta do that first. I have to finish the book before I can actually start sending it out. Mostly because I want to put my best foot forward. I can start compiling that list early of all of the people that I would want to reach out to. I can see who's open for queries and who's not open for queries. But a lot of that work will have to be done again anyway, depending on when I actually finish the book. Because if somebody is open for queries this month, but then they're not when I actually finish the edits, then finding out if they were open for queries now is not gonna help me. So we'll wait and see what happens there. I've done a lot of the prep work for that already. That was one of the things that I did when I was waiting for my beta readers to read the book. So a lot of that prep work of the back cover copy and the synopsis, that's already finished for the most part. I'm gonna go over and review it and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's what happens next. That's where we're going next. That's the update. Thanks for joining me on this journey. I am really looking forward to the continuation of all of these steps in my career. I cannot wait to see where I end up. If you want to join me in that, I would really love it if you would subscribe. It means a lot to me. Subscribe, like the video, hang out with me on a regular basis. It helps encourage me to know that there are people who are interested and curious and excited about the stuff that I've been working on as well. Of course, once more information is, once I have more about what's going on and where, especially if I actually get an agent and I start landing the query, or start getting submissions out to publishing houses, that's when I'm going to start telling you a little bit more about the book that I've written, because I do want you guys to get excited about it, but I also don't want to jump the gun in telling you too much about it before it's actually ready to go out there. So I will see you next time. Thank you so much for joining me. Make sure to check out a bunch of these other videos on my channel that are about my writing life and my writing journey and where I'm at in the process. It's been a long time coming, and it's still going to be a longer time too. So I really appreciate your patience and your endurance with me, because that's really what this is. It's an endurance race. It's a marathon. Publishing is a marathon. And I'm so glad that you've joined me. I can't wait to see where we go together. Until next time, I'll see you then.